So here we are in Time Agent. Big change that happened is the Zytel made a huge jump forward. Some of it an accident by the Fioli, actually, but events that changed. Tech returned, but the biggies were Destroyed Worlds, which was a mistake by the Fioli, essentially. The Zytel Baralti War is number 1 and 2. That nets out, they've got huge income now, and they're also way up on the victory point chart, but the humans are still above them. So they probably wouldn't want to change time travel at this point, but they have enough power with that extra money and the money they've been saving to probably make a play for things. I don't think they have enough strength to actually convert things, but to convert it into a win. It's actually one of my worries with the game is that essentially if one person's paying attention, they may be able to make the win, but if everybody's paying attention, it may stalemate. I know the time that we played it, no one was paying attention, and it was stalemating. Yeah, it's definitely a worry with it, is at what point, you know, does there have to be a failed victory attempt because of how solid time is, the time travel technology? Anyway, just questions to look at as we go forward. So the humans took a big risk on the first move of the game and cut off time travel. They cut it off across here. How did they do that? There are no exits. No exits. No exits. They also shut down the time travel over here for $25. Those others were $3 each. That caused everything to be flipped up to see if there's a path for time travel, because there was no source that went anywhere. The other source showed up. The only path that was at all promising was coming down this way, and it ends up that it didn't connect to anything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the different technologies and see if they hook up to things, and then I count the victory points. The game is over at this point, but it's not absolutely clear that the humans have won. If other technologies are disconnected, they could end up falling behind. And indeed, once all those lines were traced, all the technologies, with the exception of anti-gravity, were actually cut off. It's apparently kind of hard to maintain links throughout some of these. I tried tracing them all, and yeah, it's pretty easy to cut some of these. So one of the things you may want to do before you cut time is make sure that your key technologies are linked up. The problem for the humans is, if you look at their card, they're interested in a lot of technologies and not heavily interested in any of them. So they lost a lot of points because everything got cut, but didn't really gain a lot. So maybe the humans want to build highways earlier in the game to allow things to work better. Anyway, what ended up happening was the Zytel ended up scoring just a little more than the humans, with everybody else trailing, except maybe the Fioli, by quite a bit. I'll be back with my thoughts and review. Okay, so I just finished up Time War. As you know, if you were watching this video, it's about what I expected. I definitely think that it's one of the most innovative little systems I've ever seen. It really captures the spirit of, I said Time Agent, not Time War, I hope, of a warred time. The only thing that I've played, I've got 2 other time games that are similar, this kind of spanning war where you're trying to change stuff. One of them that I remember well is Yakunto's Time War, and I wanted that game so bad. And I have a copy now, and when I finally got to play it, it wasn't it wasn't what I wanted. I liked the fact that when you shift things, it shifts everything in the future, and that's cool. But what seemed to be lacking was sort of a rationale for making these shifts. You just drew a card and said, I gotta do that. That's what I need. In this, you have some very predefined goals, and you know what they are, and it's hard to figure out where everything is that you need to do, that you want to do, and how to get your victory points where you want them. But the shifts you're making are treating time as a flow, and you can break that time, but you're not shifting everything. I don't think there's a way of combining the two thoughts. And I know this isn't making a lot of sense. I think it's a very, very good game with a group of people who knows what they're doing with it. I think it was a bad choice for videoing, but I video whatever I want to try, and it wasn't a great solitaire choice. I still had fun, but I think I was missing a lot, mainly because there are just so many different things to keep track of. The way the sequence of play works, where you have to figure out what you want, and then you buy your stuff for that, and then because I'm doing everyone, myself, I have to do that for every race, and I have to kind of segment my brain and go through those tricks, and then I come back around to the guy who went first, and I have no clue what my plan was. And that's very painful in a solo game. It's painful even if you're playing not solitaire. When I played it the one time, it definitely, there was this, what the hell am I supposed to do? And even playing this, towards the end, my feeling became, all right, I'm going to stop planning so much. That's no fun at all for me, and I'm just going to try doing things. And the humans were able to end the time travel, very, very easily, as long as they set their mind to it. And they did it while they were ahead. They didn't end up winning, but, they took their chances. It was looking kind of questionable for what their chances would be later on. So with what the Zytel had done the turn before, the humans felt like they had to take that risk. Maybe not, I don't know. But that was the feeling I had. I also kind of wanted to end the game quickly, so I wanted to see what happens. If time had remained connected, instead of failing on that turnover, there's a good chance the game would have ended because somebody who was close, say the Zytel or whatever, or the Veneb, who were in a position where they had control of two spaces that would have swung victory point 16 points, which was enough to change things, could have very easily knocked out that one remaining time space. So that becomes a big deal. Another thing is, once everything would have been turned up, the entire game was calculable. And that changes things. So the humans took a risk with their move. If they had failed, whoever went next almost would not have to take a risk. They do have to declare what they're doing before they actually do it. But you don't have to roll for changes, so they could do all their combats beforehand. Anyway, what about the components? Tim Jim Standard. Although I'll say this, the rules were not as bad as I feared. Tim Jim is usually pretty questionable with rules. They included the Let's Play. It actually worked pretty well this time because it had a nice sequence of play on it and gave a good feel for the game. I think this is one of the better jobs they did on their rules format, which I usually hate. The actual rules, sparse as hell. This is, for a game of this complexity, that Tim Jim can get their rules really duplicated on, 2-3 sheets of paper? That's kind of amazing. Usually they do a really crappy job doing this. They also provide some player's notes and planning guide. The map itself, this was really strange. somebody wrote on the map. The map itself is functional. It's nothing beautiful. It's covered with the tiles. The tiles, you know, if you've seen the way the game is, these are very confusing and hard to see. The player chits, I think they did a good job with colors on this one. No dual orange, you know, nice pretty dark colors, like the little plastic guys. Unnecessary. This is like a whole counter sheet. It's money and time machines, both of which could be kept track of on a track with almost no counters. I think this was a really foolish decision on their side. It ends up making a sorting nightmare. It ends up, or else you have to keep a tray at all times in the box. It ends up probably costing them more money to put together. I think it was just a bad choice on their side. I like these things. All the player aid cards. Each race has their own information, sequence play, searching combat values, etc. Then there's a reference card for each player as well, which is really kind of cool because you really do need it for determining what the victory points are. On the other side of that, they put all these search and destroy odds. Probably not necessary, but what the hell? I can't think of a way they could have gotten around putting 2 sheets out for each player. Of course, yeah, I don't think there was an easy way. Some little tracks on the map for money would have been probably a wise move, however, just to keep treasury. There's a typo on the map itself. They provide you with some little cutouts you tape on or paste on. No biggie there. As far as feel for a Time War game, I think this does the best job that I've seen. Time War itself, the Quinto game, I tell you, it left me feeling stale. I had another one that looked like it was, I can't remember what the guy called it. He sent it to me because I had a club or whatever, and they gave me free games. And he sent it for a review or something, and I was really unimpressed with it. I've seen it on Board Game Geek. It doesn't have good review. It doesn't have a good rating. And I don't remember much about it at all. There was something in it that kind of caught my attention, but not much. The mechanisms in this game are not hard. There's nothing too complex. The differences between the different races in terms of their counters is a big deal. There are some things like the humans where squads are just awesome. They can go in and do whatever you want. Then there's races like the Baralti where a squad can't do everything in combat. You need to send a squad and an agent in. That's kind of made up for by the fact that Baralti start out with all the points, but it's hard for them to maintain them because everybody's opposed to them by the way the victory points and money is set up. The Veneb have the most interesting choice. I think I made the right one here, which is they want to go for money first and then switch to victory points just as they're about to win. I think that's really about it. It's definitely. Oh, I know, but so the one thing that is really, really difficult in the game. First of all, remembering which tiles and what you're doing, even in a multiplayer game, would be difficult. You write everything down, you still might forget, you might not have a good grasp of what you're trying to do until you get partway into the game. I think once you play half a game of this, and you're able to take notes on where things are, I think you have a pretty good feel of what you'd want to do the next time you play. I think the first time, though, it's very hard because, and the game that reminds me of is SPI's Sorcerer, where you look at the board and say, I kind of know what I want to do to win, but I don't have an idea how to go about that strategically at all. It's not like a war game. It's not something where it's clear what you want to control right away. But it does become a territorial control game, and there is connectivity, and you have this cool ability for very low cost, $3, to change
the pathways, so that if you need highways, you can make them. If you want to make terrain hard to get to, you can do that as well. So you have a lot of power in terms of kind of changing how the board is set up. I don't know if it's likely that players will try to build highways and will try to move that kind of stuff around. I didn't see much of it in my version. The terrain was hard to move through. Once you made it through, do you really want to make it easier for the next guy to come attack you? You've already paid the cost. Of course, you always have the option, if you have a lot of cash, to just jump in deep and do things far in. I'm wondering if it might be worth it for the Baralti to take a shot right at the beginning of the game on shutting down time. To see if they can get away with a win that way. Because if the technologies are connected, they're interested in a lot of the technologies. If the technologies are connected and they have this big victory point boost at the beginning of the game, they might be able to end it quickly. And that's something to keep an eye on. It's definitely something I'd like to play again, but I'd like to play it with people, not alone. That's just me. No, I don't think it makes a great solitaire game. I don't think it makes a good game to video for very similar reasons. There's nothing really to see. It's really, you really have to study the board to understand the geometry of what's going on. The connections, the color lines, and everything, they don't jump out at you. And I don't know if there's a way to make them jump out at you, like if colors had been different or something, but these tiles do not work for that very well, so you really do have to study. All right, that's all for now.